stuff. They're going to be fast.
SailGP is powered by nature, and the 10 international teams always push it to the limit. Cádiz never disappoints the crowds.
This could be over.
Oh, the capsize for Great Britain in the finale. Welcome to SailGP.
Vamos.
Located in the southwest corner of Spain, the port city of Cádiz has a rich maritime history and is the perfect host for SailGP's 5th event of Season 4. Welcome to the Spain Sail Grand Prix Andalucía Cádiz. The entire 10-nation fleet is prepped and ready to battle it out on the waters of the Atlantic Ocean, as this event marks the final European stop of the season. Today's conditions look ideal for some class racing, and the teams will put on to the test on these tricky waters with the seawall potentially in play. Before we get to the first race of the day, let's bring you up to speed on what has happened so far this season.
4 events down, and the form teams are emerging, with a few surprises to make it even more interesting this season. New Team Germany are still finding their way with their brand new F50, but they've shown moments of brilliance and are not far off the pace. Switzerland haven't made it above an 8th place finish, despite bringing in legends Glenn Ashby and Nathan Outridge to the team. Canada were docked 4 points in the season championship for their penalty in Saint-Tropez. Phil Robertson and the team will have to work hard to claw their way back up the leaderboard. France will be disappointed with their start to Season 4. This all-French team have the pace, and they know they can challenge the top teams. The United States SailGP team have struggled with form, but in Taranto they showed their fighting spirit.
And that's a great way to bring things home for the US team.
After a terrible wing malfunction, New Zealand sat on the sidelines in Taranto. They're down to 5th overall, despite a win in Chicago. Rockwool Denmark have had their best start to their season so far, making one final and being so close to another, and are now firmly established as a contender for the grand final. Spain are without doubt the team that has made the biggest performance gains this season.
And for the first time, Spain will claim the victory here in Los Angeles.
Emirates Great Britain have claimed back-to-back victories and have the benefit of some serious momentum coming into Cádiz. But triple champions Australia are all too predictably on top of the standings after finishing every race on the podium.
Absolutely perfect from Slingsby.
But they are without a win. They'll want to prove they can take a title here in Cádiz.
So after 4 events, it looks like this. Australia on top with 35 points. Emirates, GBR, Spain, Rockwool, Denmark, and New Zealand, the top 5. Then it's the USA in 6. France, Canada, Switzerland, and Germany rounding out the top 10. Alongside Olympian Stevie Morrison and Olympic silver medalist Lisa Darmanin, I'm Todd Harris. Glad to have you with us here in Spain. Well, the schedule's like this. We've got 3 fleet races scheduled for today, then 2 more tomorrow before the event final, and that's just for the top 3 teams on points. Now, remember, you get 10 points for a win all the way down to 1 point for finishing in last, so it's important to get as many points as you can. Right now, let's check in with Stevie Morrison and the course map.
Here we are above the Andalusian city of Cádiz, and let's take a look at the racecourse the teams will have today. It's the straight line to Mark 1, and after that first turn, the boats can sail their own course, trying to find the shortest time between gates. At each gate, they're allowed to turn left or right. Remember that sailing boats only go fast when they sail at an angle to the wind, so we see them zigzagging their way around the course to give themselves tactical advantage. It's a patchy wind out there, so the skippers are going to need to have their heads out the boat, trying to find advantage to finish first in front of the fans.
And those fans continue to make their way down to the port and the seawall to watch some of the best sailors in the world compete out here on the Atlantic Ocean. A beautiful day in Cádiz on day number 1 of the Spain Sail Grand Prix Andalucía. Right now, let's send it down to the 4th member of our broadcast team down on the water. Here is Jenny Tulloch.
Well, Stevie said it right, Todd. It is patchy indeed here. It's about 15 kilometers per hour, maybe gusting to 22 from the south, expecting it to go slightly right to the southwest later today. But patchy and gusty and shifty indeed means it's really tricky for the strategist. I think the really interesting part here will be Rockwell, Denmark SailGP team. They had a great practice race day yesterday, and today they've just been lapping and lapping and lapping this course. So let's see if they can have a great start and be the team that knows the race course best.
All right, thank you, Jenny. Much more from you as the day progresses. Again, we are scheduled for 3 races today and then 2 more tomorrow before that big event final, but only the top 3 will compete in the event final on points. Well, the conditions look good. The wind is up. Jenny Tulloch reporting down on the water that we have plenty of breeze to go foiling. So the big question now is, where do you want to be and how soon can you get that line without getting there too soon, Lisa Darmanin?
Well, it's going to be hard. We have seen that the teams have struggled in this light breeze to get the time on distance. I don't think we're going to see too many slingshot starts, run-up starts. It's going to be about being a little bit closer to the line, the favoured end of the line, and it's the angle to mark 1 in this light breeze to make sure you can get up on the foils and ripping as soon as possible.
And Steve, I think that's the key that everyone wants to know. Is there enough wind to foil? And if so, where's the best side of the course?
Well, here we go. What a great shot of the French crew out here. They are foiling around. There's 6 people on board, so that's always a good sign. We're sort of not searching for wind. There should be plenty of power out there. What's really interesting about this course, look at the fans right in front of it, kind of hovering over the course, which is great for the fans, but the wind's actually coming over the back of the fans down towards the race course. So we could see quite a split here. We could see this side closer to the town. You might get a gust of wind, but you might not, because what's in the way is a massive city, and how the crews actually read the wind, Lisa, is going to be really hard out there, because sometimes it could be good to be near the city, sometimes it won't be.
Lisa, you've reported down on the water before. How accurate is the data they get on those wind gusts and when they're going to come through?
The problem is you're actually looking at the water, and when the wind is coming offshore, like we're seeing today, you don't see it until it's actually on the water. So it's a lot harder to predict than if it's an onshore breeze and there's plenty of runway. So it's quite difficult, and that's why we'll probably see teams favour away from the shore. They'll only go in there if they can see it in that moment. So we might see some last-minute calls and manoeuvres to take a magic gust. So
we've had a slight delay on the course. We are still at 4 minutes plus before the start of race number 1, and it's good to see the Kiwis back on the water. Of course, they were not at the last event because of the wing sail incident. We aren't able to go down there now and talk with their skipper, former commentator here in the booth, Peter Burling, now back in where he belongs. And Pete, give us an idea of what the conditions are looking like today and what you guys expect for the 3 fleet races.
Yeah, it looks very short. I think this is the shortest course we've ever done, and this much breeze, but we're just looking forward to being back out here. It's very dynamic, so that means you've got to be in the puff, and the same thing won't work twice, so just a good heads-up day.
Sounds like
any coach would say.
Sounds like nice heads-up day. Sounds good, Pete, but presumably still it's going to be a lot easier if you're at the front when you get to gate 2 than it is if you're in the pack.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's going to be a lot on the start. Not sure if Ian Murray's hitched too much on the course axis, but yeah.
All right,
we're
Pete.
just got to get going here, guys. Hey, better let me to it, Steve.
Appreciate your time, Pete. Good luck to you as we come up on 3 minutes to go before the start of race number 1. Slight delays push things back just a little bit, and now you see the fleet getting themselves into position. And I imagine, Lisa, that Pete wants to get into position because he's known for his great starts. Doesn't want to give too much away to the rest of the fleet.
It is light air as well, so you want to be close to the start line. We have seen that if you get your time on distance wrong, you're in trouble. So we can see right now the Kiwis are a little bit away from the start line, so they'll be making their way and getting in position. Now, we know that the start is so critical, and by getting in position, it means you can own the start. You can prepare 2.5 minutes before where you want to set up, and you can control. Whereas if you're late, you're kind of dictated to where the other teams are.
And Jenny Tulloch, you're down on the water. Talk a little bit about what Peter Burling was just saying about the course being compressed just a little bit. How tight is it down there, and what is the absolute latest you're hearing on the wind, and how long it's going to stay with us throughout this day?
Coming up, and then
Yeah, he wasn't kidding. It is a very short race course, which means maybe we'll just see one maneuver on the downwind for teams if they can squeeze it in near the seawall, their final drive. We saw that in some practice racing yesterday, but it is shifty and puffy, and there's only times where there is enough breeze to stay foiling inside near the seawall. Other times, teams have really dropped off the foils, even on the downwind, and definitely on these upwinds. I think he's worried as well about the course axis. His comment about Ian Murray, I think he's seen that the course has gone a little bit too far right for how he's reading the breeze at the moment.
Interesting. All right, thanks, Jenny. Much more from you as we come up on 1:40 to go. Stevie, now is the critical time. It's the dance before the dance as we come up on 90 seconds before they start this thing off. And Stevie, you know this first race is going to be so important. It's going to set the tone for the rest of day one.
It always sets the tone. It's a chance to learn the course, and all the teams will have their plan. But of course, we do know that not many plans survive first contact with the enemy. And right now, we're starting to see what all the teams have. Great Britain, they've come in early. They've obviously want that plan to be early. New Zealand, a bit out the back. Pete might say that's because of us. I think it's probably what the Kiwis like. Gives them a chance to have a view, see where the rest of the fleet are lining up. So, yeah, what's everyone else's plan? How does that fit around our plan? And how do we make it work so we hit that line in 1 minute's time?
And Lisa, can you go into the start box knowing exactly this is what we want to do, or are you reacting to what everyone else is doing?
Well, generally you have a plan A. So, okay, we want to start at this end of the line and we want to hit it at speed. But if everybody is racking up early, so getting there early, you might pivot to plan B. I think it's going to be a real balance between being at the favoured end of the line, where it might be quite crowded, or having space at the unfavoured end of the line and being able to manoeuvre your boat in free air.
Coming up on 30 seconds to go before the start of race number one. France way out the back, Germany way out the back, Stevie, and this is where you better have your timing right.
Yeah, we can see the favoured position on the right-hand side of our screen. That's where should be the fastest angle to Mark 1, but Great Britain, Canada, New Zealand, they're well positioned. Australia, they're looking for a little bit of luck to find a gap here. It's about timing, it's about hitting the line. When the line goes white, and for France, for Germany, they're already out the back. Penalty for Germany, they're going to need to be behind the fleet when this start line clears, but USA at the bottom of the line, Canada in the middle, and it's all about getting on the foils now as the line turns white. Tight at the top. I'm not sure there's room for Switzerland in there. That was punchy from the Swiss crew. And at the bottom of the line, it's Diego Botín on the Spanish boat. The Canadians coming across the top, and New Zealand are up and foiling fast. It's a sprint now, but Diego Botín on that Spanish boat is going to be in good shape to mark 1.
Penalty Switzerland, you have been disqualified from the race for barging out the end.
Black flag penalty. They had no room there. Denmark had to give them room to avoid a massive collision. Huge error for the Swiss as Diego and crew lead this Spanish boat away in front of the home fans.
So at mark number 1, the fleet goes from 10 to 9.
Canada, relative GBR. That's an 11.
And chief umpire Craig Mitchell's not done, so Switzerland gets the black flag. Sebastian Schneider pushing the issue way too much, and their race 1 is done.
What a moment on board that Swiss boat. That happened early, Lisa. Got themselves trapped out. No room allowed at the start line. You can't barge in, and, well, probably a fair penalty.
It is a fair penalty, and then the reason it is so harsh is because when you are at that end of the line and you push in there is nowhere to go. So it's quite aggressive, and they were really close to Denmark, and it's actually, it's quite dangerous, and that's why the penalty's harsh. And we've got the live speeds here. It might only be 15 km/h winds, but we've got Spain going 57 km/h, so plenty of wind to send there and round this one.
And look at Spain coming up already to gate number 2. Peter Burling telling us before the start of race number 1 how tight this course was. So it's Spain, New Zealand, USA, Denmark, and Australia, the top 5.
Great rounding by the Spanish. New Zealand and the USA were going to be tight. We could see them going toe-to-toe. New Zealand has the right of way on the inside here. Late decision by Burling to split away. He will head back towards the Cádiz shoreline. He didn't want to go around the outside of Jimmy Spithill. The US boat just up and foiling. New flight controller Taylor Canfield on board the US boat. Pressure on him out there today. Thoughts are with Hans Henken recovering well after Taranto. We're glad to hear. But for the US, they've turned left. For the New Zealand crew, they've turned back towards that Cádiz shoreline. And I think you could find wind there, but it's perhaps a bit more of a risky call.
It is risky, but I think in general New Zealand have been really good at spotting these shifty winds, staying in the pressure and being quite bold and going out there. We spoke to Pete before, and he did say it is about staying in those puffs. So I think he has seen something.
Nice manoeuvre there by the Spanish crew, and they're up and foiling. That'll be a good sign. They're heading back towards the fans on the Cádiz shoreline. Great view for the Spanish. What a first race in front of their home fans. And in the background, New Zealand had just turned in near the shore. Look pretty good for Spain at this point. They're out in front. And I think, again, on a day like today, in this lighter, shiftier wind, if you're out in front, you can make your own decisions. And that makes a massive difference versus being back in the pack and sailing in disturbed wind.
So as they make their way back up the course, let's go back to the start one more time and let's break this down. And this is where the black flag comes in on Switzerland.
We can see Team Tilt. We're on the back of the Swiss boat as they're trying to squeeze inside that buoy, but they're not entitled to room. And you can see, had Rockwell Denmark not turned away, the Swiss would have wrapped themselves on the mark. Serious damage to the boat. They're just not allowed in there, Lisa.
And we have seen these black flags in the past. We've seen that France has had one before. I think the Spanish, when Phil Robertson was driving. It is, you know, historically they do get penalised. And now back to the lives. New Zealand actually probably lost out a little bit on that. The thing to watch out for in the manoeuvres is we want teams to be maintaining around 30 kilometres per hour. So the Spanish on the top of our screen, it's still green. They should get a foiling manoeuvre here, but you really want to stay over 30 kilometres per hour for that foiling manoeuvre.
New Zealand passing behind Rockwell Denmark, the Americans sitting in second place, but it is Spain on home waters out in front on race number 1. Can they get back to the magic they had? Remember, they won in Los Angeles. They finished 3rd in Saint-Tropez, so the season's been good to the Spanish so far, and maybe this home event has come at the perfect time.
2, 1.
Well, they're just a really, really good light wind team as well, Todd. I think we're starting to see that of this Spanish crew, and they're keeping some things simple when they can. Interesting consequence of where you turn around gate 2 will affect gate 3. We can see, as Lisa said, probably a small loss for New Zealand, showing us 4th on our leader lines on the left there. But they're going to end up having to go back towards the Cádiz shoreline again at the top here. And I think you're putting your decision-making in the hands of Lady Luck. What will New Zealand do? The easy manoeuvre is to turn left. Then they just sail straight, keep going. But you just can't be sure what wind there's going to be under the Cádiz shoreline in the top right of our screen.
I think we will see them turn left because they'll accelerate as they turn down, but we will see an early drive by them. You'll take the speed, you'll stay fast whilst you can.
Let's check in down on the water with Jenny Tulloch. Jenny, what are you seeing from your angle, and are you seeing any advantages on either side of the course right now that the teams are playing on?
Well, absolutely. I still think there's probably better breeze out here on the offshore side of this race course. There's that huge city wall blocking the breeze inside. So interesting to see the Kiwis going there twice. I thought they would early drive here as well, just like Lisa, and they're continuing in a bit further. So maybe what they think is a little bit more distance behind them. They can protect against the boats behind them, and what they want is a little extra oomph towards the boats in front.
Yeah, it's really interesting when you split downwind like this. I think the minimising manoeuvres is important, and the Kiwis are obviously comfortable over that side, and I think in general, if the Kiwis aren't in front, if they're down in 4th, they're happy to roll the dice and try and get some pressure.
Oh, and look at that true wind speed. So what wind have the teams got at the moment? Well, New Zealand have got 21 kilometres an hour versus just 16 for the USA. That should mean good news for New Zealand fans. They're in more wind. They should be going faster, and yep, there you go, 5 kilometres an hour faster nearly. They've overtaken the Danish. Why did Peter Burling head towards the Cádiz shoreline? He clearly saw something that we couldn't from up here. Good decision-making for New Zealand, and they're going to have the opportunity now to potentially find a split. They should be the boat with the left turn at the bottom. USA are going to be turning back right towards the shoreline. Is this another opportunity for New Zealand to gain?
So Peter Burling, fresh off their stand down in Taranto after the wing sail breakage in Saint-Tropez. They're back in the water, no rust on the Kiwis, showing great form here as they are moving into 3rd and possibly overtaking the Americans now as they go to the favored side of the course.
Well, they're going to favour side of the course, and when the boats meet each other, Todd, it will be New Zealand with the right of way. So if it is close in about 30 seconds' time, when the boats come back together, right of way will be with New Zealand. And look at the way they sail the boat, flying the boat so high here. The boat tilted right on top of them, has the effect of making the boat a little bit wider, gives you a little bit more horsepower, and just so efficient, but they're right on the edge to sail like that, Lisa.
They are right on the edge, but when they do sail like that, it does push them upwind quicker. So there's lots of nuances going on there, but they are sailing the boat really well in these light wind conditions, and they're always pushing. But to be honest, that was a pretty rough manoeuvre by them.
So it is Spain out in front. This is like 5 of 6. They'll get to the top of the course, and then it'll be the quick turn down to the finish line. Can Spain pull off a victory on the opening shot here on race number 1? We're scheduled for 2 more races. USA in 2nd, Denmark in 3rd. New Zealand's dropped back to 4th.
I think what's a real feature out here that's a little bit hard to see and very subtle, but there is actually quite a big sea state. We're right on the Atlantic coast here in Cádiz, and there's what we'd call a swell. There's a big rolling sea state, and that affects the foils. It's only the foils on these boats that are in the water, of course, but if they're getting swayed around and unsettled, it can make a big difference. And I think we saw New Zealand, they've done such a good job, but a bad manoeuvre in that sea state, they've lost a lot. And now, look, coming up to this final turning mark, Spain, they've absolutely nailed their angle into Mark 5. Should be advantage to the Spanish here, set up well for a win. And now New Zealand, can they get an attack back on New Zealand? There's going to be 2 more manoeuvres for New Zealand, just 1 more for Denmark, and it could be good news for Rockwool, Denmark.
And they are on the final leg, the hometown teams. It is Spain out in front with a huge lead here at the Spain Sail Grand Prix, day number 1. They will bring it into the shoreline just in front of their fans on the seawall and let the celebration begin as they open things up on their home event with a huge victory. Viva la España! Spain takes the win.
Vamos indeed, Diego. What a great start for the Spanish. And look at the fans on the shoreline there. And also, there you go, USA, Jimmy Spithill. He had a great, got to the final here last year. He's got form, and they'll be happy with the USA there. Good comeback. They're starting to find form season 4, and they need to.
So the Americans come across in 2nd place with Jimmy Spithill at the wheel. It looks like Denmark, the most consistent team yesterday on practice day, was they finished 3 races in 2nd across the board, showing that form again today. They will take a 3rd place. That's a great way to start things off. And then the Kiwis a little bit up and down, Lisa. They look like they could threaten for a win. Drop back with that 1 poor maneuver on that last leg where they'll finish in 4th place.
I think what we're seeing is 1 maneuver can make a huge difference. So the pressure is really on for perfection. And what we were talking about with the sea state, with the unstable breeze, it really is a recipe for disaster if you don't get it right, and you'll fall off the foils, and it basically means you're going to lose so much distance.
19-second lead and win by Diego Botín and the for 2nd place in Jimmy Spithill as the 3-time reigning and defending champion Australians come in 5th place. Tom Slimsy's not going to be happy with that, Stevie, but again, we're talking about points, and 5th place is better than 6th, which is better than 7th, so this might be their 1 bad race of the entire regatta.
Yeah, I think historically these are conditions that the Australians, perhaps if there is a chink in their armour, it's maybe in these conditions. It's the only time you'd say they look perhaps vulnerable. But yeah, 5th is a counting result in this fleet. You can see at the moment, GBR, Canada and France, 7th, 8th, 9th. Well, they're some of our top form teams, and actually newcomers to the fleet.
Germany.
First time here in Cádiz, Germany. Eric Heil, great race. That was the voice of Stuart Biffle, the wing trimmer there, saying it is a great race. 6th place, they sailed the boat nicely. They sailed it smooth, and that's a good result. I think a lot of this is all about how can I keep the points. Tie at the top here. Canada on the inside. They have right of way. France dive inside Great Britain. This is going to be huge. So tight here. Wow, Ainsley having to keep clear. Contant de la Pierre dive for the overlap. Got inside. He did have right of way. He's kept clear, I think. Whoa, in an absolute blink of an eye, the situation changed so quickly, and now Canada and France. Who's first on the foils? Watch the top of the mast. Green on France, but again, a turn towards the win by Canada. Aggressive from Robertson, another match racing move. He takes 1 more punt towards the French.
All that work for naught as France comes in 7th, but they now will be punted back behind Emirates, GBR, and Canada. So Canada will take 7th. GBR gets elevated to 8th. And unfortunately for Contant de la Pierre and the French, they will drop back to 9th. Wow.
Last-minute dive inside by the French, and it's been deemed by the umpires he didn't give Great Britain enough time to keep clear. Tight moment.
What a race and what a finish across the board from the start to the finish. We got a black flag at the start line, and then we have near contact at the bottom between positions 7, 8, and 9. We now go on board on the water with Spain. Diego Botín is the skipper of the Spanish squad. Remember, they won in Los Angeles, and a great season so far for the Spanish, also finishing in 3rd in Saint-Tropez. Diego Botín, Diego, congratulations. You got a great start. You were able to maintain the lead. Is that just home knowledge?
Yeah, no, it's been an amazing start for us. Yeah, it's still 4 races to go until the final. So yeah, can't ask for a better start, but we need to keep our heads down and keep going.
And Diego, what does it mean to be racing in front of the home fans? They're going to be so happy to see you win the first race, but is it extra special seeing that crowd? It's a huge crowd on the shore there.
Yeah, it's amazing. We just heard the roar from the crowd through our noise-cancelling headphones now, and it's just epic to see all the world pushing like this. It's amazing.
Hey, Diego, congratulations. We'll let you get ready for race number 2, but you certainly give the home fans something to cheer about. What a way to start things off here in Cádiz. And that was Diego Botín, the skipper for Spain SailGP. Wow. Stevie, I don't know, Lisa, I don't know if I remember a race that started off with this much of a bang and ended with this much of a bang, but we had it from the get-go.
It was a big start, that is for sure, and it was tight on the line. All the boats absolutely on the money, but yeah, straight in with a black flag. Switzerland trying to force their way in at the top of the line. They weren't entitled to find room there. Black flag, Switzerland, straight off the bat, and it was Spain that just led things away. They made it look pretty simple from there, Lisa.
I think if you're out in front, it is easy, but I know it was so important to this Spanish team to come out firing at a home event. It's Diego's first event, steering in front of his fans as well, and yeah, rounding front and really textbook from there.
And I think what's interesting is we saw New Zealand, they were challenging second, third, fourth, but they just got a little bit dictated to by the fleet and by the pack they were in. They didn't have the space that the Spanish crew did, and I think that's a feature. If you're dictated to, you can't let your own plan play out, then you're going to get punished, you're going to lose distance. So it was New Zealand second, third, but they ended up fourth, and I think that's the story. Can I control my own destiny?
So it is Spain that gets the win, with the USA finishing in second, Denmark in third, and New Zealand finishing in fourth. But all eyes on the Spanish as they cross the line in first. Well, a beautiful day here in Cádiz at the Spain Sail Grand Prix. It is day number 1, and we are off to a great start with the home team getting the first win.
Well, we have plenty of data powered by Oracle to get us some start analysis. So looking at Spain, they weren't the closest to the line. It was USA that was just 1.1 meters off, but they did have the best angle to Mark 1. They had great speed at 32.8. But it was France, they were at the back. They were 39.3 kilometers at the start. So what we're seeing is that favored end of the line is what was key here in Cádiz.
Happy to report the entire fleet is back to full strength with the return of the Kiwis for this event, but the incident in Saint-Tropez is still a hot topic around the fleet and, of course, on social media. After racing on day 1, a sudden structural failure caused by the wing coming out of alignment ended their Saint-Tropez event early. They were also unable to race the last event in Italy because a new wing could not be transported in time. But they were awarded 6 points, which is the equivalent of 5th place. However, the new wing has now arrived in Spain, and they've been working hard on and off the water to get ready for racing.
Yeah, great day on the water for us. Boat went awesome. The new wing, huge credit to all of the tech team and everyone that was involved in getting that together. It's no small job, and they've done a beautiful job and out there throwing the boat around straight away. Huge amount of motivation within the group, really sort of just embracing the situation that's been handed to us and just getting back out there and showing what we can do on the water.
Well, we're here for the long game. We're definitely trying to make sure we're a team that can win these events, and we're the form team kind of coming into the end of the season. We're just trying to continue to learn, but we know we've got to put together some consistent performances and get some good results on the board now.
So the big question, can New Zealand get up to speed with their new wing to claim valuable season points? They're down in 5th place overall and still have a shot at making the grand final at the end of the season. During day 1 of the Taranto, Italy event, the SailGP safety teams were called into action after an unfortunate incident involving U.S. SailGP team member Hans Henken.
Stand by barrel 2.
Now the disaster for the United States.
Knockout. Go, 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 go.
Keep breathing.
Keep breathing.
Immediately following the incident, Hans was taken to the hospital in Italy and is now thankfully recovering at home. But he'll be missed by his teammates in Spain this weekend.
He's still a little ways off getting back on the boat, but he's responding well. He'll be massively missed. I mean, it's, in my mind, the flight control role is the hardest role on the F-50. We've been making some very, very good steps throughout this season, as you've seen in our results. And so this, we're going to be honest about it, this will be a big blow for us, coming into this event. We're on the back foot, we know that. But Taylor is jumping in. He has done the flight control in season 1, and we'll be going out and doing everything we can. We've got to be realistic, but yeah, we'll take each race as it comes, and we'll get out there and try and post some good results.
So the Americans off to a good start, finishing in second place on race number 1 here at the Spain Sail Grand Prix. We'll see what they can do in races 2 and 3, and that'll wrap up day number 1 with 3 full races. Still a lot to play for here on the Atlantic Ocean on day number 1.
Well, it really doesn't get better than a day like today. The sun is shining, it's warm outside, and the city is right behind me with all the fans who just went wild over the Spanish team winning the first race of today. I mean, that is just class performance from Team Spain, doing it right in front of the home fans. This definitely seems similar to conditions to the Los Angeles Sail Grand Prix, where they won their first event. And I think they could put on some good results here if the wind stays like this. They've got a new icon on their sail, the Gallo, so maybe that's giving them some luck, along with the amazing fans that they have on shore. The New Zealand team is back out on the water, and after missing their event in Toronto, it's almost like they never even left, because they had an awesome race. They finished around 4th place, I think, and I'm sure they're just shaking some nerves out, and they're gonna do amazing because they put on an amazing performance yesterday in practice racing. The U.S. team looked awesome with their new flight controller, Taylor Canfield. And, Cádiz is definitely not the easiest first venue because of all of this chop and all of this weird water that's moving around the city. It's definitely really hard for the flight controllers to fly this boat. You want to fly it high enough that you go fast, but also you need to keep the boat in the water because a crash could put you from first to last. It is quite patchy and quite light around here. I think it's around 15 kilometers an hour. So I think the teams that can just have good accelerations and stay on the foils will really come through in this. The Spanish did a really good job at that. They made it to Mark 1 in first place, and that just opened up the options for the rest of the race. And GBR, coming from back-to-back wins in Saint-Tropez and Toronto, I'm sure they're pretty bummed about that race performance. But, I think they've got tons of momentum going, and the team is super stoked.
What a beautiful day in Cádiz, a regular stop on the SailGP calendar. This scenic port city provides a perfect setting for both sailors and fans to witness the beauty of the foiling F-50 catamarans out on the Atlantic Ocean. Cádiz was founded more than 3,000 years ago and is often considered the oldest city in the West. Christopher Columbus set sail for the New World from this port twice and later became the home port of the Spanish treasure fleet. The city is surrounded by natural beauty, and the old town is a mix of narrow streets that interconnect the stunning plazas. This week, SailGP takes over, and the famous city walls provide the perfect platform to witness the drama out on the racecourse. Well, a beautiful day as we get ready for race number 2. People that will not be out on the water, SailGP, of course, powered by nature, are trying to reduce the number of boats out of the water, so the coaches now have been moved onshore, and they have all the data they need to convey in real time back to the teams out of the water to give them as much information as possible. Sebastian Vettel, part of Team Germany, also onshore, so we'll see how that all plays out going forward.
Well, let's take a closer look at what is happening on this course. Now, we have a big bit of land on the left-hand side of our screen. That land there, that is acting as a wind shadow. It's making it really hard on the left-hand side, that shore side. So what we're seeing is the offshore side, the right-hand side, is a safe way to go. So where those arrows are, we will see teams favour that side. Unless, of course, they see a great gust of pressure on the left, and they'll go for that. That's what we're seeing out there in Cádiz.
So all the teams are now set in the start box area. Switzerland back on board as we come up on 2:40 to go before the start of race number 2. Quick reminder that Spain won the first race with the USA in second and Denmark in third. But everyone's trying to amass as many points as possible.
The course for race 2 is 6 legs, axis is 225, wind is approximately 17 kilometers per hour.
So a bit of good news there, 17 kilometers an hour at 2:15 to go before the start of the second race as we go down on the water. And Jenny Tulloch. Jenny, what can you see and what can you hear? And more importantly, how does everyone feeling after that exciting first race?
Well, I think what we're hearing is that we might just have 5 people on board now. So while the breeze still feels up, it's not quite easy to fly all the way around the race course. So perhaps they're ditching one of the grinders on board each team, and that just might make it a little bit easier for the boats to stay foiling all the time. I think Lisa said it perfectly. The offshore side of this race course is safe, but that doesn't mean it's always the right side of the course. I think sometimes the left is actually right when there's a little bit better pressure, and that's what you saw, at least with the Kiwis, one time coming to advantage on the left-hand side.
So is left right and right is wrong?
It's just it's a moving target, Todd. I think you just got to play it as you see it, and what we know is a good start's going to help. We look at there, our wind rose at the bottom of our screen, 17 kilometres an hour. We've got a southwesterly wind, so that's good news wind speed-wise, but 5 people on board. Just not had that before, Lisa. I mean, how are they going to break up their crews?
It's very rare. Normally go from 6 down to 4. So I think it's probably actually not a bad thing. I think the female athletes out there, they normally get stuck with the grinding. So I think they'll be pretty happy to keep a grinder on board. But it is 17 kilometers per hour. It is foiling as we saw in the previous race. So I think it's just making sure those foiling maneuvers. And in season 1, we did have 5 people on board. So it's back to basics.
And there you see Switzerland back out on the water after getting the black flag in race number 1. They were DQ'd at the start, so we are back to full 10 boats. Stevie, I guarantee Switzerland and Sebastian Schneider, Nathan Outridge, Will Ryan, they are going to want some big points in the second race.
They are going to want some points in New Zealand. Well, they had a good comeback into the SailGP season 4. They had a good start, but now there's a bit of a job roll on here as we see the favoured end of the line. Right-hand side of our screen, that blue arrow, that suggests the fastest point to Mark 1. It should give you the shortest distance for the best time. It's tight in the fleet. It's tight at the top of the line for Switzerland again. They're struggling to have a gap in here. They're pushing that really hard once more. Australia and New Zealand are well positioned. Great Britain at the top of our screen. Have they got the timing right? How's your timing, Ben Ainsley, at the bottom of the line? Look for the line to turn white, and we'll be go for race 2. Wow, tight start. Germany don't make it in at the top of the line. Squeezed out by Switzerland. Disaster for the Germans there. And Contant de la Pierre, like a bullet out of a gun. What a start for the French. They're going to be leading us around Mark 1.
The French and Contant de la Pierre also in a big need of a big win, finishing 9th place in race number 1 after that late penalty. So here we are, mark number 1. It'll be France. And it looks like the Americans on the inside. Do they have the right of way as Australia comes around?
Oh, they're on the inside. They have the right of way. Australia must keep clear, but the judgment by Tom Slingsby to get around the Canadians there. There could have only been centimetres in it. First boat to turn away, New Zealand. They're hoping to find more wind away from the Cádiz shoreline, but Tom Slingsby on board Australia has done a nice job of getting round and up to second, and it's going to come down to good manoeuvres. New Zealand up and foiling again, but right now our ladder lines are showing France extending away. You're out in front on the French boat. Time to keep it simple, keep that boat fast, and they should be hoping to make up for a very disappointing race 1.
We have the live speeds here in kilometres per hour, miles per hour and knots. The French team, they are the fastest around the boat, around the course, and they have been since Mark 1, sailing clear air and and really commanding this race.
And this is 6 legs. Remember, this is race number 2 of 3. One more race still to go. The French finishing in 9th on the last race. The Australians currently sitting in 2nd place. They finished in 5th on the last race. So a chance for them to pick up some big points. Remember, you've got to be in the top 3 after 5 races to get into the event final, where only the top 3 boats. And the Americans, Stevie, I got to tell you what, right now, Taylor Canfield, Jimmy Spittle are doing a great job.
US team's doing a fantastic job. They're looking for that consistency that they've just lacked so far in season 4. They've often had quite a good day 2, but they've not managed to start an event well. So great news for US fans, that's for sure there. As we hear Jimmy Spittle, he's saying, I'm struggling for speed. That's because he's sailing in the disturbed wind of the Australian boat. The Australian boat will be giving disturbed, turbulent wind, and you just can't go as fast when you're in the pack. Back in the pack this time, 5th for the Spanish team. How are they going to find a way to make up on that first place in race 1? Can they find a gap when you're in the pack, Lisa?
I think it was hard for the Spanish. They were in the right place in the start line, but they just were slow at the start, and the French team, they were the only boat that had speed on that line. So it's tough for them, but I think that they are really strong in these conditions, and that's what we're seeing throughout the season so far.
Well, if they're strong in these conditions, I got to ask you this: what is going on with Emirates GBR? They've won the last 2 events. Here they are in 10th place right now, and they finished 8th, Stevie, on the first race. So they have dug themselves a massive hole.
Yeah, they've got a big problem. We see they're in the middle of our screen at the moment, off the foils, 10th place. I don't know if they've got some form of technical issues. Don't know what's going on. We'll have to find out. But yes, absolute disaster for them. 2 bad races in a row would be a problem.
From what we're hearing from the water, the British team have had technical issues throughout the morning with their wing screen, and that wing data provides so much information to them. So I'm not sure how much is working now, if it's got in their heads a little bit.
So back to racing action. This is race number 2. It is France out in front, Australia giving chase in 2nd, with Spain now moving up to 3rd, the winners of race number 1. Stevie, if they can finish in the top 3 of the 2nd race, that is huge for them.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about, can you overtake boats when you're back in the pack here, as we see now a tight situation brewing between France and Australia. France are in front, but as they turn, they need to nail a foiling tack here. Can they stay in the air? No, they're coming. What a manoeuvre. Great work. Right of way with Australia, though. We could see a lead change here. There you go, De La Pierre. He turns the boat away, drops around behind the Australians. Advantage Australia, but how are they lined up for gate 3? Who's going to need to do more manoeuvres? If France are clear around gate 3, they'll be ahead. If not, it could be advantage Australia.
I think France is going to get around this gate without having to do another manoeuvre, so I think they're going to sneak. They're going to be slow because they're tight on ley line, but they will sneak ahead of Australia.
So the French out in front again, with Australia trying to close that gap, sitting in 2nd place. The Americans have moved back into 4th place. Good battle going there between 4th, 5th, and 6th. The Americans, the Kiwis, and the Spanish.
I think that was quite impressive decision-making by the French. We're on board with them there. We can see Contan. He looks pretty calm, but he knew the Australians were going to have the right of way, so he had to sail a little further than he planned and then execute a nice turn out behind Australia and still make it to the mark. So that was great tactical planning by the French boat, thinking 2 or 3 moves ahead. But right now they've done a poor manoeuvre. Australia are back in it, and the Australians are chasing hard, as we can see. Right now, top of our screen, gate 3, US are going round. They've got the right of way. Spain dip behind United States. They dip behind Canada. But, oh no, Canada turns right in front of the Spanish. Aggressive from Phil Robertson. Look, it's here. Spain are not allowed in there. Oh no, here we go. Oh, Phil Robertson, aggressive manoeuvre, shuts the door.
Penalty Spain, relative Canada. Not entitled to mark room.
Wow, that was aggressive from Canada and Phil Robertson. Was that payback for Saint-Tropez? There's no love lost between those 2 teams.
So Spain, both holes in the water, almost come to a complete stop, as Phil Robertson basically said, this is my mark, I've got right away.
He did.
You get the scraps.
He absolutely said that. Aggressive manoeuvre. The trouble is, has he lost himself a couple of places? It's advantage New Zealand tactically here. Spanish will be behind them, but can't help thinking that's payback for Saint-Tropez.
We do see Phil Robertson and the Canadian team. They do sail quite aggressive. They're always pushing the rules. We saw it there. We saw it in Saint-Tropez, and we saw it in the last mark rounding in the previous race. So he does like those one-on-one battles, and in that one he came out on top.
He came out on top relative to the Spanish,
right?
But he came into that situation 4th, and he's now 6th.
I mean,
worth it.
It's not conservative sailing. Really, you would take a 5th. You don't want to, like we saw in Saint-Tropez, you don't want to get in the battles if you're going to lose the war.
I
think especially in these light conditions, we see France, Australia, they're sailing smooth round the course. The Australians struggling to catch this French boat, though. A 2-second gain on this downwind leg for the Australians is nice work. United States in the pack, but New Zealand, they have been in the pack. They've managed to sail fast and in space, and they're up to 4th. That'll be good news for the New Zealand crew. Consistency is the key on a day like today, and trying to minimise mistakes is what you're looking for.
Let's go on board one more time. Look how close this is. Phil Robertson just pulls the right-hand turn right in front.
Yeah, I think the Spanish thought he was going straight on, and Phil just shut the door. He was entitled to shut the door. He's allowed that. He wasn't have any problem to turn in front there, and Spain can't go inside, but it all happens so late. Hard for Diego to keep clear, and aggressive stuff. And now we're back in the pack. New Zealand, do they cross ahead of Denmark? Rockwool Denmark were 9th early on in the race. They're up to 5th as well. So New Zealand and Denmark are moving impressively through the fleet, and it's going to be Spain, Canada again at the bottom.
Part 2.
Could be advantage Spain back in this here. They've got their inside position. Canada must keep clear. Can Phil Robertson get around the outside? Yes, he can. Wow, this is the battle that keeps giving. All clear, all clear. Phil Robertson sets up for a manoeuvre on board Canada here, and he's going to try and smooth that Canadian boat down. The Spanish are off the foils. They're going to struggle to build speed from here.
So Phil Robertson makes a quick turn after getting around that gate, seeing his old friend Diego Botín right behind him, and we've got congestion all over the course. Meanwhile, out in front, it is France has the lead of about 100 meters as they are approaching the final gate for them. Quentin Delapierre did a masterful job of getting out front and staying away from the chaos.
Here we go, France setting up to manoeuvre, but I think the French could well have 2 manoeuvres to do. Australia 1, that would be advantage Australia here. Could be very, very tight when we get to Mark 5. France will be on the inside, but Australia, we wouldn't be surprised to see them coming in pretty fast. This 100-metre lead could change in the next 10-15 seconds.
It's all going to be about if Australia nails this manoeuvre. Right now, I would say advantage France.
So France has that one mark. They'll make the left-hand turn. There you see the finish line in the distance as Australia comes in at full speed. Can they get up and foiling and get that maximum speed and just slingshot around the French? And oh, Lisa, this is going to be close. Can they keep both holes out of the water?
It is so high pressure. I think they have enough speed right now to pop on the foils, and they should be fairly safe here.
So race number 2, close quarter racing across the Atlantic from start to finish, just like race number 1. And in the end, it is Vive la France as Quentin Delapierre and the French get the victory in race number 2 here in Spain.
Well, they sailed that well, but it came from a fantastic start. As Lisa said, they hit the line fastest at the gun there. Australia, nice comeback for a 2nd place. Jimmy Spittle on board the USA, sitting in 3rd at the moment, looks well set for that consistency for the US team. They'll be happy, because France, remember, they were last in race 1. So there's not a lot of consistency for the French at the moment. They got that last-minute penalties. We've got a tight situation, 4th and 5th here. Kiwis have the right of way, but Denmark are going to be fast and possibly roll over the top. 3rd place for the United States, a good result. Here we go, here's the big moment. Rockwool Denmark, can they stay on the foils? They've got to keep clear of New Zealand. New Zealand expect them to turn Denmark up and try and push them off the foils. Great reactions by Sehested. He's kept the boat foiling, and I think Rockwool Denmark, they were last at Mark 1, and they could well find their way back here all the way up to 4th. What a result.
Drag race here, and Sehested just gets around Peter Burling and the Kiwis, so the Danes will pick up 4th place, and they shuffle the Kiwis back to 5th.
We're seeing so much aggressive racing. The course is really short, which means that the boats are coming head-to-head more often, and nobody is giving anyone an inch. And what we're about to see, if you see 6th and 7th, we've got Spain and Canada once again. Spain had that incident at the bottom mark and then managed to sneak in front of Canada. They must have found more pressure up that last leg.
Just silky smooth in these light winds on that Spanish boat, and there you go. Wow, that was a big moment we saw at gate 3. About 10 minutes ago, we saw an aggressive manoeuvre by Canada on the Spanish, but the Spanish have managed to get a 6th. They've dug out a good performance there. Phil Robertson back in 7th is not going to be happy, but look at that left-hand side of our screen. Well, there's a huge crowd of fans, which is great to see, but 10th place GBR. That is a worry for the British crew.
I'm going to put the boat down here.
So Switzerland will come in 8th place, not the points they were looking for in race number 2 after being DQ'd in race number 1 with the black flag. It is France that gets the win. Germany will hold on, it looks like, for 9th place. We will have to try to sort out what is going on with Emirates GBR, the winner of the last 2 races, as they finish in dead last.
Nice work, a little press. That's the reach.
So the rest of the fleet coming home now. We get an opportunity to go down on the water and go on board with France SailGP. Quentin Delapierre and his French squad getting a big victory. Quentin, congratulations on a great win for you. You guys finished 4th in Toronto. That was your best finish. Do you guys feel that this might be the one where you break through and get the overall win?
I mean, we are in a good improving curve, and we came here in Cádiz with good memories, and I think the whole team is super motivated to perform here.
Quentin, of course, you say you had a good memories from Cádiz. This was where you won last year. Does it take any special skill sailing in Cádiz?
Not especially. I think the wind structure is a little bit different, and it's also, we've got some swell here in Cádiz. But it's always a great pleasure to see this huge crowd on the pier, and just cheering for SailGP is something special.
Quentin, we appreciate their time. Wish you the best of luck, bon chance, and we will talk to you later today. So France gets the win in race number 2, and Stevie, plenty of moments to talk about in this one as well.
Well, yeah, it was. It's tight start. And I think the big story in the race and all the racing we've seen is that difference between can I sail smoothly? Now, that's a lot easier if you give yourself a clear start. France, perfect start, led at Mark 1. And then they were able to keep things simple, move away by gate 2. They were just out in front and clear. And then it's sailing smooth. The exact opposite to sailing smooth, Canada and Spain. Aggressive from Phil Robertson. He had the right of way. Thankfully, no damage to the boats, but smooth or aggressive?
So let's take a look at the standings after 2 races. It is the Americans, Jimmy Spithill and company, atop the board with a 2nd and a 3rd, so that's 17 points. Australia sits on a 3-way tie with Denmark and Spain, the winners of the first race. Then the Kiwis lurking there in 5th place on 13th, France in 12th, fresh off their win. And then you got Canada, Germany, Great Britain, and Switzerland still trying to figure out these tricky waters of the Atlantic off the coast of Spain. Well, SailGP has implemented a program where future sailors are identified and then given an opportunity to actually have an experience with the foiling F-50s. It's all part of the organization's plan to develop the crews of the future for SailGP. SailGP's youth program Inspire saw the Season 3 male racing winner join the United States SailGP team in Taranto, Italy, and he got a chance to get behind the wheel.
In Hawaii, water sports are massive. Sailing's definitely a smaller part of it. It's more of a tight-knit community. Saw some friends going out sailing and thought it might be fun. I went and hopped into an open skiff. I'm Gavin. I'm from Honolulu, Hawaii. I won Inspire in Season 3, so I came out to Taranto for a week and joined the USA team. Leading up to getting on the F-50, I had messaged all the people that I knew that had been on one. I'm like, all right, what do I have to prepare? And they're like, the G-forces, you got to be fit.
I've had to pull in the big guns and come and tell me how to do it. He's going to come out for a blast today. No doubt he'll show me up straight away, and I expect to see him on the boat very soon.
Wind's looking nice. Not a cloud in the sky. Time for some yachting. I wasn't fully expecting hopping on the helm for a good leg, and that was just sitting behind Jimmy, and then Jimmy just looks at me, holds out the wheel, and I'm like, okay, here we go. That was pretty dang fun, I'd have to say. It's been an emotional roller coaster. Excitement of being able to be on the boat, by far the most fun I've ever had. Hopefully, in not too long, I'll be on the F-50.
Well, what an opportunity it is, and here we are in Cádiz, and we can see the Wasps, our Inspire programme, out racing there on the water in these great conditions, Lisa.
I think it's fantastic. It's about getting foiling experience, and they get to race on the same course as the F50s, that reaching start that we know is so difficult to nail. But we've got 9 young Spanish from around Spain, and on at number 7 we have Danny leading the pack. At number 5 we have Izzy. What a fantastic experience for these young sailors.
Really tricky conditions for them, but they're sailing the boat so well, and I just think for any young sailors out there, what an opportunity. Race for your heroes and give the fans here in Cádiz such a great show.
Well, the fans continue to make their way to the seawall and out on the water. We've got one more race to go, and that'll be our conclusion to day number 1. What an amazing day here at the Spain Sail Grand Prix, Andalucía, Cádiz. We're just getting started.
But what an awesome race, too, that was. That was so cool to see the French come in with a win. It's been a long time coming to see them get in the front of the pack. And I know they have a really good flight controller on board, which is really hard to manage in this bumpy conditions. I remember racing in Cádiz 2 years ago, and the sea state was definitely one of the trickiest parts of the racing because you have the water which is pushing onto the city wall from the sea, and also the motorboats pushes onto the wall and reflects back into the race course, and that just makes it super tricky for the flight controllers to manage. So I'm really impressed with the French as well as the USA, obviously, with their new flight controller, Taylor Canfield. He did have some time back in season 1, but still super impressive to see that consistent performance from the USA team. All in all, I think clearly the starts have been the biggest part of the race, because if you can get off the line clear, no one around you fighting, you don't fight with anyone around, you can get to Mark 1 in first, and the options for you just open up dramatically. The wind is still around 15 kilometers an hour. It could be dying a little bit, but the chop is still there. And I think these are some of the trickiest conditions to race in, because the lighter that it gets, the harder to manage this sea state. So it was really cool to see the US out in front like that. And the Danish, one of the most consistent teams this whole season, and they had a really great practice race yesterday. They've stayed consistent this entire time, so I have no doubt that they will have some really good races to come. The weather is awesome here in Spain. The fans are cheering so loudly, and I'm just stoked to catch more of the racing. GBR, they didn't have a great race, and I think maybe it got to their heads a little bit, but I'm sure the strategist is really looking at how to improve for the next one. New Zealand team, they are super stoked. You could feel it in the tech site how excited and energized they were to get on site and be racing again.
Well, everyone jockeying for a prime position on that seawall to see the world's best sailors compete out on the Atlantic Ocean on a picture-perfect day here in Cádiz. This is day 1 of the Spain Sail Grand Prix, Andalucía, Cádiz, with one more race to go here before we bring the curtains down on day 1. Well, SailGP is powered by nature, and with that in mind, reducing the carbon footprint is a major goal going forward. But getting the entire league to be more efficient and clean is no easy task, even for SailGP. SailGP is always looking for new ways to operate more sustainably on the water. It is a target of having the entire support fleet be 100% powered by clean energy by 2025. SailGP is working with Repsol to create a pioneering partnership in an effort to reach their goal.
To run SailGP, we need a number of support boats. And the first thing we've done is look at reducing the size of that fleet. Then we looked at transitioning that fleet to a clean energy, clean propulsion system. Obviously, everybody wants clean propulsion, but it's not always readily available off the shelf. So with Repsol, we're exploring really exciting new territories where we're basically taking the hardware we have already now, the boats we have with the engines we have, and dropping in a revolutionary fuel. Essentially, Repsol are taking agriculture industries and turning that into a synthetic biofuel that can be dropped into an existing engine. Think about all the marinas out there. With all these boats and all these engines that we've all been using for the last few decades, actually you can drop in a new type of fuel now that immediately reduces your emissions by 70%. So with Repsol this weekend, we're breaking new boundaries, trying that fuel in our engines. Further, that biofuel is produced here in Spain, which makes it even more compelling to use this weekend.
And there you see the team that is sitting atop the leaderboard right now after 2 races. USA SailGP with Jimmy Spithill. Remember, it's down to 5 crew members on board. And just a short time ago, Jenny Tulloch caught up with Jimmy Spithill and got his thoughts on the day and the race to come.
Yeah, it's a really challenging racetrack because the waves are much bigger than yesterday, so you get some big ocean swells, especially on the first reach. And then it all depends too, if you get one when you're doing a top or bottom mark, it can be really quite dynamic in the turn. But yeah, really challenging racetrack.
Speaking of dynamic, how is Taylor holding up?
Yeah, Taylor's doing an awesome job. I mean, he's just jumped in with very little training. You know, toughest fleet in the world, and yeah, he's doing an awesome job.
Well, we are seeing a bit of a pattern emerge. We know what side's favoured, but there is some magic on the left-hand side if you get it right. What is standing out to me in this race course is the boat-on-boat battles, and that's where it could really determine the weekend.
So there you see all 10 teams getting into position. This is the pre-start dance as we go under 90 seconds to go, Stevie. This will be important, especially for Jimmy Spithill, who Jenny Tulloch just talked to. Can they conclude the first day on a high and finish, you know, anything in the top 5 is a win for them?
Yeah, I mean, momentum's a beautiful thing in sport, and they had a great final day in Taranto. They've got off the start line well here, so this next sort of 65 seconds will define this race, and of course will define how you feel at dinner tonight.
And of course, Lisa, there's some teams out there. We've seen some aggressive sailing today. I have a feeling it's going to be ramped up that much more because points today, you can't dig yourself a big hole. You've got to come out of this thing with some good points.
Well, what we're seeing is every point counts. People are fighting really hard out there for one place. They're being quite aggressive. And I think with this start, we're going to see a similar thing. So it's going to be about getting the spot and finding clear air.
Here we go, 30 seconds before the start of the 3rd and final fleet race today here at the Spain Sail Grand Prix in Cádiz. Stevie Morrison, where do you like to be right now?
Well, different lineup here. We can see a little bit more space at the bottom of our screen. France, New Zealand, they're foiling with 17 seconds to go. Canada, really well positioned near the favoured pole position. So tight on board France. Wow, that was a close moment. He pushed it so tight. Bottom of the line, it's Canada and Denmark look well positioned. New Zealand are going to be out the back. Germany again coming in at the top, foiling fast. It's Australia out the middle of the line. It's Spain at the bottom of the line. They're up and foiling, and it's going to be a sprint. Spain versus Australia to lead at Mark 1.
The Spanish on the inside as they approach mark number 1. Tom Slingsby and the Australians out in front. Does he have the room and the distance? And with the French coming on strong.
He looks good on board Australia. They're going to lead around Mark 1. Quentin de la Pierre on board the French crew has done a nice job of finding a gap through the middle there, and they'll be happy with that, rounding in the top 3. Good position. Now, Australia, they're going to settle things down. We're on board. Let's watch this first manoeuvre on board the Australian boat as they look to set up for gate 2. This is how the fans are seeing it.
You talk about Stevie's famous quote, Lisa, how's your timing, how's your nerve? Because you had some people really holding their line there. The French, Quentin de la Pierre was not to be denied.
That was an amazing start. I think everyone is sailing so aggressively, and you know, I thought the French team were going to run straight into the Swiss in that moment. I was jumping out of my seat, so it looked like he had it under control but I think, you know, the Australians, they had a really nice speed at the start, but the Spanish, they had the better angle. But you know, Australia just crept over, and they should, with this race course, keep it simple and hold it from here. But Denmark's really come back into this race.
The Danish have. I think a few of the boats have sailed a bit of extra distance here, Lisa. They went past what we call the lay line, the point where you can make it to the gate with no more manoeuvres. French have sailed probably an extra 100, 150 metres more than the Germans, and even more than that versus Denmark, and they've dropped back from 3rd to 5th on board the French boat. Great rounding in 3rd place by the German crew. Can they keep it smooth? That's the voice. Here we go. It's tight there. Great Britain just inside Switzerland. behind. The Swiss get round clean. And again now, back in the pack, New Zealand, Great Britain again. How can they find some points? How can they salvage a decent mid-fleet result from here?
Well, we've seen this before with Australia starting off with a bad start and then just gradually clawing themselves back into it. Let's remind you that Australia started off with race number 1 in 5th place. They finished race number 2 in 2nd place, and here they are leading race number 3.
I think it's probably because I said this was their one weakness, Todd, isn't it? And that was motivation enough for Tom Slingsby and crew on board that Australian boat. But I think the simple thing is he's really sorted out his starting in these conditions, and once they're up and going, there's a lot of pressure on the flight controller. So Jason Waterhouse, flight control on board that Australian boat, you know, perhaps it could just be him. They often have less practice than the other teams, but he's doing a good job on that Australian boat. And as we do look at the start, we watch the French coming in. They've got to keep clear of the Swiss. Look how tight that is. Oh my word. I mean, that must have been centimetres in that. So aggressive from De La Pierre, but most importantly, he stayed on the foils. And well, that's why right now we can see the French in a decent position, but it's tricky out there on the course. Fastest boat right now is the Australians, but Denmark are moving through the fleet quickly.
A little bit more pace on and make it their life a bit harder.
So we just heard from Tom Slingsby there. He's trying to make the Spanish life harder. So he's giving up some distance towards the mark to try and give them dirty air and eventually give him more of a gap to the Spanish team. But, you know, very impressive by the Spanish fighting back. But if we look, we've got USA back down in 10th after having 2 good results. And New Zealand back in 9th. That's a surprise as well.
Well, we always say you can have one bad race, but a 10th or a 9th, that is a killer, Stevie. I mean, we're talking bad race 5, 6, 7, 8 maybe, but a 10th is, I'm not saying it's going to doom you, but the Americans right now need it, and there you get the illustration of the dirty air that you were talking about with Tom Slingsby.
That's that turbulent air, and you can see that the Australians, he'd been planning to position himself here a long way out to throw that disturbed air on the Spanish. The Spanish have just about got themselves out and clear of the worst of it, but it's just advantage Australia. When you're heading upwind like this, you get to control the other boats a little bit easier, and it's a good job by the Australians. They're flying the boat nice and smooth here. It's a much smoother looking Australian boat than they were in race 1, but I think it's a lot easier to be smooth when you're out in front.
Halfway point, and this is the final race of the day with Australia, the 3-time reigning and defending champions, out in front. Already looking ahead, they see the Americans sitting in 9th place as they head downwind.
This is going to be crucial, these next few minutes, for those boats in the pack. And when I talk about the pack, I'm talking about 5th all the way down to 10th, because it's going to come down to some really tight manoeuvres at the top here. Showing us 9th at the moment is New Zealand. They're off the bottom of our screen. Great Britain in 7th. They've got the right of way coming in here, and we can see there's only 50 metres or so between these 4, 5, 6 boats on our screen. How quickly can you get in and out of this gate is going to be so important. Switzerland, they've got to be confident they're clear ahead of the British if they want to carry straight on. Are they ahead? It's going to be tight. I think they're just clear around. Good judgment, Phil Robertson. This time he opts to keep it simple. No last-minute manoeuvre on board Canada this time. Good call. Keep it smooth. Great Britain keep it smooth as well. And it's so tight in the pack. It's going to really, really be crucial for New Zealand, for Great Britain, for France. All those teams that have had a bad result already today have got to salvage close to a 5th if they're going to have a hope of a good day tomorrow.
Emirates GBR has not had the best results thus far. They finished 8th in race number 1. They finished 10th in race number 2. And here they are battling for a top 4 position as they just get past the Swiss. It's Australia, Denmark, Spain, Switzerland, and Great Britain doing a battle for that 4th position.
Denmark are just sailing really nicely here, aren't they, Lisa? They're just slowly picking their way through the fleet.
They've made massive gains on this leg compared to the Spanish. The Spanish were right behind Australia, so they've really lost out here. I think that it's going to be neck and neck in this next leg between Denmark and Spain. But yeah, overall we're seeing the Danish team, they are sailing quite fast in general in SailGP, but I think the Spanish have that little edge in this race.
And how much do you think, I mean, we heard from Jenny that in the practice before the racing, the Rockwell were just constantly putting the laps in. I mean, they're just doing the hard work.
Definitely, and I saw that in Toronto as well. They're really pushing every minute that they can have on the water. They're absolutely taking, and you know, they have got something to prove. They've got the speed, but they're just making one colossal error in an event that's really costing them a win or a final, and it's whether they can just put it all together this weekend. But
we're on to the penultimate leg. Let's go down on the water and Jenny Tulloch. Jenny, yesterday the wind started dying off at the end of the day in practice. Does not look to be the case today. It looks like it's going to stay with us.
Yeah, at the moment it still looks beautiful, actually relatively even across the entire course, so it makes it a little bit easier for Australia looking in the rearview mirror at the boats behind them. But it's been so close for 4th to 9th. I think Rockwell and Spain in this little battle for 2nd and 3rd. And as you were saying, Lisa, Rockwell really putting in the time now. I think maybe as well a little bit of the pressure of their home event in the last event in Toronto with their sponsors behind them is now behind them in the rearview mirror. So kind of pressure's off, and it's on Spain to perform instead.
And Spain right now sitting in 3rd place. That goes well with their 1st place on race number 1, 6th in race number 2. So a 3 would be a nice way to wrap up the day. Remember, everyone trying to get in the top 3 on points for that final event final, which comes after 2 more races tomorrow.
I think the day has actually changed slightly. It looks like that shore side is actually being more powerful in the last race compared to others. What we'll see is we'll see Rockwell, they'll build speed and then they'll go for their maneuver. If they get that foiling maneuver, they should be pretty safe here for a 2nd on the fleet. But yeah, very impressive race by that Australian team.
I think as the course goes on, Lisa, as well, what you start to see is by turning right and going towards that Cádiz shoreline, you've got the opportunity to get to Mark 5 with just 2 manoeuvres. None of the teams seem to be able to come out this way and do it in 1. If you can't do it in 1, you've got to do it in 3. And you said earlier, manoeuvres just kill you in these marginal conditions. So definitely that Cádiz side, there may be more wind, but what there definitely is, and what we want in sailing is some form of fact, is you can do less manoeuvres by heading towards Cádiz.
Race number 3 goes the way of the 3-time reigning and defending champion Australians. They take the victory here in Cádiz to close out Saturday. So Tom Slingsby with a great bounce-back victory in the 3rd and final race. Stevie, to your point, momentum is your friend, and they will certainly have it going into tomorrow. Denmark looking very smooth. They will come in 2nd place. A great day for the Danes. They finished in 3rd in race number 1, and of course they finished down the leaderboard just a little bit in 4th in race number 2. But this is a nice performance for them, finishing in 2nd.
And you know what, Todd? That 4th was their best race of the day, because they got to Mark 1 in 9th position, right at the back, and they worked their way all the way up to 4th, so they gained that 5 points through that race. That was without doubt their best race, and I think it is how well you can pick through the fleet, how well you can sail smooth when all around you is chaos, and they've done a really nice job. But yes, Australia, it's ominous for the rest of the fleet that they found some form in these marginal conditions.
And a nice bounce back as well for Spain after a disappointing race 2 finish where they finished 6th. They're going to come back with a 3rd, so a 1st, 6th, and a 3 for the hometown team as Diego Botín and his squad come across the line, and you can hear the crowd roaring on the wall. Good performance for Switzerland after being DQ'd in race number 1. They come back and they finish the day in 4th place overall. Canada's going to get 5th and Great Britain in 6th.
Yeah, the Canadian boat sailed a really smooth last lap. They kept it simple at the top of gate 3, and they managed to take 2 or 3 places in that. They're fast on board Canada. They've done a nice job there. Great Britain, that's a tough day. They've won the last 2 events, but I think they might have a problem getting to the final. And talking of getting to the final, France and New Zealand, it's going to be tough for both those teams from here. They've got work to do. It's a sprint to the finish. France must keep clear of New Zealand if it's tight, but I think the French are far enough ahead to keep out. That's a tough race for the Kiwis. They've dropped back. They were up in around 4th or 5th in that one. And yeah, tough for those crews. When we see the points come up and the overalls, it's going to be interesting, because USA, well, they were a form boat in the first 2 races, but a 10th, that's going to have brought them right back into the fight at this event.
Yeah, they go from a 2, a 3, and a 10. So 15 points now for the Americans. They were looking for something much more. Anything inside the top 6, Stevie, would have almost assuredly put them on great footing to go into that final, where only the top 3 on points get it done. And I don't know what it was. This start seemed like they were still in the mix, Stevie, and then all of a sudden they just got caught up in everyone's wash and just dropped back.
Yeah, I think if you just confine yourself slightly out of position in that last 30 seconds, there's just no way back. You've not got the power to get on the foil, to get the speed, and then you're struggling.
Yeah, they were definitely slow at the start. They were kind of sitting back, didn't have a really good run-up, so that really hurt them overall.
Well, we'll crunch all the numbers and see who sits where, but a great day of racing here in Spain.
Well, let's take a look back at that start, 20 seconds to go. I mean, it was a tight, dramatic action between France. France have got to keep clear here. They're foiling, which is a good thing, but they've got to watch out for Switzerland. They just squeeze in front of New Zealand, shut the door on New Zealand. That gives New Zealand a really tough start from there. It was fantastically aggressive, but it was then Australia with that slight run-up in the middle of the line. The run-up meant they could be foiling when the gun went. And well, how's your timing, Tom Slingsby? Spot on.
take a look now as the race 3 summary, and lots of numbers to crunch there, Lisa.
Plenty of numbers to crunch, but the one thing that you need to look at is that blue underline. In Australia, they get 100%.
Yep.
They have average speed, best distance, great flight time, and only 6 maneuvers, and that is why they came out in front. Impressive with Rockwell right behind them, but I think if you're fast and you sail less distance, that's the key to sailing.
All right, let's take a look at some of the action. Let's go back to race number 1, and if you're a fan of Switzerland, not so much, but the Rolex best time start goes the way of the USA.
It was a great start by the USA, and Jimmy Spittle and crew managed to turn it into a decent position at Mark 1. They were the closest to the line, but they weren't quite the fastest at the line, and often that's the key to winning these starts. How fast can you hit the line as well? But yeah, for Switzerland, disaster really to be out in race 1. You can't win it on the first day, but you can lose it, Lisa.
We saw that happen with the Germans as well in the second race. I think that was a little bit of a danger area for that racing, but, you know, fantastic by the Spanish to come out firing. I think the boat-on-boat battles for me were really the highlight of that race. It made it super interesting.
So Spain gets the win in race number 1. Race number 2, I'll tell you what, it was a different story, but the Spanish, what a way to start off your home event, get to the win. And then it was France emerging, Stevie, and they just, Quentin Delapierre said, I've had enough of this sailing in the back of the pack. I'm going to go to the front.
Yeah, it was like a knife through butter at the start line, wasn't it? He just came flying through and just so much quicker than the rest of the fleet. And they've shown consistently when they're in front, they're fast on this French boat, but they do seem to need or like a bit of space to be able to keep it simple.
Definitely. I think the French team, what's been their weakness this season has been their light wind start. So I think that they will be really happy to be able to execute this maneuver. But what about this incident? I think it's really hard to predict what other teams are going to do, but Phil definitely wanted to punish the Spanish there.
Canada-Spain relations were set back on that one, and then we go to race number 3. The Germans this time do not get squeezed out, but while everyone's watching both ends of the course of the start, Stevie, the Australians just sneak away.
Well, the Australians probably gained form through the day. They got more and more comfortable in the conditions. They sail quickly, and you give them a lead, and they do a nice job. And I think for me in this race, well, Spain again showed how good they were, but Rockwell, Denmark, they've got the pace, they've got the form here. Can they hold it together tomorrow?
So after 3 races, day number 1 at the Spain Sail Grand Prix, it looks like this. The Australians back on top with 25 points. Denmark just 1 point back, and Spain just 2 points back. With USA, after that disappointing third race, they're still in the running there for their top 3 positions. They sit on 18 points. Then you've got France and New Zealand battling there at 16 points. Canada having a tough day up and down the board, and a difficult weekend already for Switzerland, Great Britain, and Germany. Now go back down on the water, and one of the most consistent teams. They were definitely yesterday in practice, and they come and do it again today. Nikolaj Sehested and Rockwell, Denmark. Nikolaj, you guys really took that momentum you had from yesterday's practice sessions, and you converted it in today. You guys are just keeping it simple. How are you able to do that with these tricky conditions?
Yeah, to be honest, I didn't really get off the line that well today compared to yesterday, so I was relying a lot on the guys and girls sailing the boat really, really clean and fast, and that was same as yesterday. We had just very good maneuvers and good boat speed, and then we just tried to stay out of traffic the whole time, just hitting the corners so you avoid traffic and gas at the same time.
Yeah, and I guess to help you through that, Anne-Marie, you're at the back of the boat. You seem to do a nice job of finding space out there. How easy is it when you are in the pack to convert overtakes?
I mean, it's not easy. There's not many free lines, but I think everyone at the team did a really good job to just kind of find that way through the fleet, especially in the second race where we were a bit of a, back in the fleet, but coming back with a 4th place is, it's a great result. It's definitely a keeper.
Nikolaj, a 3, 4, and a 2 is a very solid way to start the day. You look to tomorrow. Do you guys race conservatively in those 2 races to make sure you get to that final, or do you need to take a big swing and go for a win on one of those 2 races?
We're going to push and take a big swing. I don't really think there is a mode out here where you can sail easy and conservative. There's no easy lanes or any easy ways of sailing, so we'll just be doing the same thing and try to keep it a bit simple. Hopefully, it looks like same forecast tomorrow, so it should be more of the same what we had today, so it should be all right.
Nikolai Sehested and Marie Rendon, we appreciate your time. Congratulations. Denmark doing a great job on day number 1 here at the Spain Sail Grand Prix as they look forward to tomorrow. I like that attitude, Stevie. They're going to take a big swing. They're not just going to play it conservatively. They're going to go for it, and they need a big win. I'd love to see them pull that off because that is a very, very strong crew.
They're due a win, aren't they? They've been knocking on the door. They've been sailing well. They've got that consistency, but unfortunately, it's about actually getting it done.
Yeah, and getting it done today in race number 3, Australia, the 3-time reigning and defending champions. Tom Slingsby joins us now. Tom, you started things off with a 5, you bounce back with a 2, and then you end the day on a 1. Give us an idea of what the conditions are like, because it seems like last year it's a totally different scenario with the walls and the waves bouncing off. Today it's a little bit smoother, but still tricky.
Yeah, it's a lot smoother, but it's a beautiful racetrack. That was really nice out there, and yeah, we had a great day. We're stoked.
Tom, I did a nice job of saying that this was probably the only condition where you perhaps have a bit of a chink in the armour. Is it fair to say that you've actually taken some learnings from today, and if there was any, what are they?
Yeah, I know you saw the practice racing yesterday, and we had a shocker. So we learned a lot overnight, and I'm not ashamed to say it. We looked at a lot of our rivals and had a look at what they were doing differently, and yeah, flat out we copied them.
You're not going to tell us what those copies were then?
No, I'm not going to make it easy for people, but it's stuff the other teams are doing, and yeah, it's just a few little things we tidied up, and all in all, we sailed way better. So yeah, we're really happy with that.
Tom, appreciate your time. Wish you the best of luck as you guys headed to Championship Sunday.
Cheers. Thank you very much.
Tom Slingsby in Australia SailGP doing a great job as they come back and carrying the momentum into day number 2 with a victory in race number 3. The team that got off to the best start of the day, of course, the home team, and Spain, the winners in Los Angeles. They come out and get the victory in home waters. Diego Botín and company getting the win as we go on board with the Spanish squad. And Diego, what a day for you guys. You start off with a big win. You bounce back a little bit to 6th in race number 2, and a nice comeback in race number 3, finishing in 3rd. So with that in mind, what is the plan for Championship Sunday on home waters?
Yeah, we had a very nice day. I think we had, in average, good starts, and we took good decisions, but we also had a couple of mistakes that cost us some points. So yeah, we will try to get the learnings for tomorrow and come back stronger if we can.
And Florian, it seems like you have a good boat speed edge in these conditions. Is there something you know you're doing different with that wing than the other teams? And are you going to tell us?
Well, I reckon it's probably, yeah, exactly. If there was something I was not going to tell, but I guess it's, yeah, all wing trimmers across the board of the fleet are doing a really great job, and yeah, obviously with the shared data we can always compare, and probably we'll be seeing what other teams were doing. But yeah, it's been quite tricky and important to stay fast out there today for the maneuvers, and I think we managed fairly well. So yeah, all in all, quite happy with not only our performance, but with just another epic day where we've seen such a big crowd. So yeah, massive thank you to everybody for coming and making Cádiz unique again.
And Diego and Florian, I guess the question that everyone wants to know is, are you guys going to be treating Phil Robertson to some nice paella tonight in Spain, and where would that be?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we had a decision, a situation with the Canadians. We thought the best way to avoid was actually to take the penalty at some point. Yeah, we were a bit afraid that the crash was going to happen, but yeah, I think we took the penalty, and it was on us, for sure.
All right, appreciate it, Diego. Congratulations, you guys, on a great day, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow.
I'm not sure if you can hear me, Nicole, but I've just wondering, you've got 5 people on board. How was it up to be grinding up the front and managing that racetrack?
I think that was for me. Yeah, it was obviously slightly more physical, but I had Cardona there doing most of the hard work, so it wasn't too bad.
And obviously, as a strategist, you're also grinding, trying to look around. Was it hard to pick a shift and sail less distance out there today?
Maybe get your elbow
yeah, I think the hardest part on these boats is obviously to stay clear with boats and know how to manage all those situations. So yeah, for sure, eyes out and know where everyone is heading.
Well, it definitely looked like it was hard to stay out of trouble, and good luck for tomorrow, Nicole. Thanks for chatting.
Thanks. Thank you a lot.
Appreciate the time from Diego Botín, Florian Tritchell, and Nicole van der Velde, giving us a perspective from Spain, Stevie. They had a great day, and the pressure of sailing not only in your home waters, but delivering to come out and get the win on race number 1. That was huge, and they did it on the very first race. Talk about setting the tone.
Yeah, I mean, they've just done a nice job all day, really, and we saw some really tight boat-on-boat situations. That was the finish of race 1. Canada had the right of way there. They dived inside. The French, well, it was a little bit of a late move. In sailing, you've got to give people opportunity to keep clear. The French didn't really do that in that situation. As we see, they dive in so late, and there's just really nowhere for Ainsley to go until too late on. So I think that was aggressive from De La Pierre, and perhaps the story of the day. Luckily, I don't think we bumped too much carbon.
How surprised are you, Lisa, that they were able to thread that needle, literally?
Well, I think what we saw today, we saw Canada and France were definitely cutting it fine with a lot of boats out there. So I think that they're sailing quite aggressively. Sometimes you pull it off and sometimes you get it wrong. And I think that's what we're seeing with the French team. They got it wrong there, but then they were having little battles with the New Zealand team and they were getting the roll. So it's about being aggressive in those moments to get 1 or 2 points.
And Lisa, if it was this aggressive on Saturday, what's it going to be like on Championship Sunday?
Oh, well, I cannot wait for tomorrow. I think this short course really favours these boat-on-boat situations. We're seeing them all come to the mark at one time, but this was just so dramatic for me. I think Diego had nowhere to go, but you know, Phil made it really hard for him, but that's the sailing rules. You've got to stay out of the way, and I think they're quite lucky that that's quite a soft mark.
So they take the penalty, they take their medicine, but in the end, it was all good for the Spanish as they are primed to get themselves into their home event final. Diego Botín and company doing a great job as we see them bringing it into shore. They'll crane out, they'll get the data going, Stevie, and then it's the big crunch. And I think this is going to be a different situation because they're all going to be breaking down what can we do, getting those marginal gains.
Well, we heard Tom Slingsby, 3-time championship winner, talking about making gains overnight and learning overnight, and they've got all the data in the Oracle Cloud from today. They can draw that down. The coaches, we saw them back on their stations back ashore. They'll be itching to get in with the teams, itching to start discussing what can we do better tomorrow, because it's not about winning on day 1, it's about winning on day 2, and that's going to be a question of learning. That's going to be the best at evolving and taking things forward, and they've got to do that now. Hard work continues.
So everyone wants to know the one big thing, and what is Mother Nature, Lisa Darman, going to give us tomorrow?
Well, it's going to give us very similar conditions. We've got 12 kilometres per hour, gusting to 18 kilometres per hour from the same direction. So those debriefs are going to be super critical because, as we heard Tom Slingsby say, he improved massive from yesterday, and you're going to have the same thing for tomorrow. So I think the Danish are going to be pretty happy about that as well.
Wow, so what a great day to start things off here in Spain, and what a great way to start things off if you're a fan of the Spanish. Stevie, they get the win. They did exactly what they had to do, set the tone right away.
Yeah, race win. I mean, if you get a race win in race 1, it makes you confident, it gets you ahead of the pack early on, and if you're doing that in front of your home fans, then that's a pretty perfect way to get things going.
France in race number 2, Lisa, with a great bounce back.
Amazing bounce back by them, and as we saw once again, if you're out in front, it's easy. You can sail your own race. They did a fantastic job of managing the race from there and sailing fast around the course.
And the Australians win the 3rd and final race of the day, so it's all setting up for Championship Sunday here at the Spain Sail Grand Prix. For Stevie Morrison, Lisa Darmanin, and Jenny Tulloch, I'm Todd Harris saying so long for now. We will see you tomorrow back here in Spain. Spain Sail Grand Prix, Andalucía, Cádiz. Viva la España, Spain takes the win.
Friend, this is going to be huge. So tight. Oh, an aggressive maneuver.
The French get the victory in race number 2. Defending champion Australians, they take the victory here in Cádiz to close out Saturday.